Hi there, Steve Kaufman here. Today, I want to talk about a question, a subject that comes up all the time. People ask me, how long does it take to learn a language? And I want to talk about this because of what I am experiencing now in learning Arabic. So, as I struggle with Arabic, and I study the letters. I read, with the help of hearing the words, and then I decipher the letters that are there, and I'm getting better at it. But it just seems so frustrating when we start into a language. Things that we think we have learned, we forget, we can't. I see the word again. I've read the word several times before, and I still have trouble reading the word. I need to hear it before I can actually, with any confidence, read it. Part of that, of course, is that we tend to second guess ourselves and we're not confident enough to just go for it. I think it's this word kind of thing. So I'm saying to myself, I've only been at it a week and already I'm frustrated. I'm impatient. Why am I not better? And of course, if I can't read, then I'll have trouble understanding what I hear when I listen to it. So I want to get better at reading. And so how long is this all going to take? So then I thought of all the other languages that I have learned and the things that influence how quickly we can learn. Before doing that, it just so happened that I discovered this is a map of Europe, and it's called Foreign Service Institute. This is the US Foreign Service Institute. Language difficulty rankings. It's not just Europe, it's Europe, Middle East, North Africa. And it ranks these languages for difficulty, and I will put a link to the description box. But their estimates of the amount of time it takes are based on intensive study, and I'll get into that. But for intensive study, based on intensive study, 24 weeks. 24 weeks, what's that? That's, I guess, 5 months and a bit, will get you languages in group 1 if you're an English speaker. That's the Scandinavian languages, that's French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and so forth. Those are the closest and easiest. Group 2, which is now 30 weeks, they've added another month and a half, would be essentially German. Then the next level of difficulty, according to them, is Group 3, which doesn't even show up on this map here. Group 4 is languages with significant difficulty, and they are, I should have, they put Romanian in as a quickie, 24 weeks. So group 4 is Finnish, Russian, the Slavic languages, Turkish, and stuff like that. And that's 44 weeks, so it almost doubles the amount of time required. And the really more difficult languages like Arabic, Chinese, and stuff like that goes to 88 weeks. Like it's 4 times as long as it takes to learn, say, Swedish, French, Spanish. So that's what FSI says. What has been my experience? Well, I think it depends on 2 things. When they say X number of weeks, that's based on intensive study. That means probably 5 hours a day with a teacher. So the things that impact it are 3 things, actually. How similar the language is to a language you already know. The second thing is how much time you spend, how intensively you study. And the third thing is, what was the third thing again? What you want to achieve. So what do you call? If you're saying, is it fluency you want to achieve or what? So if I look at different languages, so Arabic, for example, and the reason I came to this was because of my, present experience, call it frustrations, depending on the day. Although I'm starting to really enjoy the sound of Arabic, and I enjoy the letters, I'm enjoying it. I'm frustrated that I'm not better. And I should say that I was very impressed. I managed to find a video of Ollie Richards producing Egyptian Arabic after 3 months, and I thought, wow, I'll never be able to do that. It's much like when I saw Judith Meyer speaking Hebrew, I think after 6 months, and I thought to myself, wow, I don't think I can achieve that. So part of it, of course, is how, your goals, what you want to achieve, how much time you put in, and some people might be better than others. So maybe I'm not as good as Ollie Richards or Judith Meyer. But let's take some languages. Chinese. Essentially, I was reading the newspaper, reading books, interpreting and stuff after 9 to 12 months. But I had I was at it 6-7 hours a day, which included 3 hours a day, one-on-one with a teacher. And I was being paid as a Canadian diplomat. So that was my job. So that was Chinese. Russian, which I did on my own because I'm not being paid to study right now. I study out of interest. So I have an hour and a half. I have other activities, sports, family, business, friends. So it's not a sort of obsessive, struggle like what Chinese was. So the Russian, I was a year, 2 years, still having trouble reading, understanding, listening, speaking. So that was Russian. Now, after Russian, several years of Russian, I decided to do Czech. Well, after a year of Czech, even though the grammar is very similar, maybe 50% of the vocabulary is recognizable, still, when I went to Prague to try to activate it, I struggled. Now, I didn't do a lot of speaking. I didn't do a lot of online speaking. I didn't have a one-on-one teacher, nothing. I was just learning on my own, much as was the case with Russian. Although I had more conversations with Evgeny and Olena and other Russian tutors at Link. So that's, even after a year, I wasn't where I would say that I was fluent in Czech, despite having had Russian. But after Czech, then Ukrainian and Polish were easier. But still, I was at Ukrainian for quite a long while. And it took a visit to Lviv and 3 weeks there with 4 or 5 hours of Ukrainian speaking every day. And I would say that I'm a B2 in Ukrainian today. So there again, that's a couple of hours. Now, if I had a tutor 3 hours a day and another 3 hours a day to spend, of course, that time period would be shrunk significantly. So relating all of that back to Arabic, given that I have an hour and a half a day, I'm not yet at the stage where I can just listen away from the computer because I don't understand a thing I'm listening to. I think I'll start to gain more traction as I start to understand more. Then I'll be able to activate my listening in the car and while exercising and doing the dishes and stuff. I think that my familiarity with the letters can only get better. It's not going to get worse. So the frustration at forgetting and not being able to read and stuff will gradually decline. If I'm able to read more fluently and understand better when I listen, I'll pick up speed. Nevertheless, at an hour and a half a day, I think a couple of years in Arabic, I have to be realistic. Therefore, I have to enjoy it. Enjoy the stuff I'm listening to. And that's why, for example, we've now got the first 10 stories. We're having all of the mini stories redone because we had 1 to 10 up at Link, but we only had 1 to 10 and we were waiting and waiting. We didn't get any more. And the sound quality wasn't ideal. And we now have had someone who's an Egyptian lady, but she reads in modern standard Arabic. Her voice is very pleasant. The sound is very clear. So I know I'm going to be able to enjoy listening to these stories over and over again. So that's going to help. When I was in Bratislava at the last Polyglot conference, I bought an Assimil book there because there was a very persuasive and very friendly gentleman, Philippe from Assimil, who persuaded me that this was the best possible way to learn Arabic. So I'm going to definitely go through those books. I ordered another book because I like books and it's fun for me to cover some of the same material via different sort of channels. So as long as I can keep myself motivated and enjoying it, then it doesn't bother me that Arabic, to achieve a decent level, is going to be more than a year. And depending on how much time I spend per day, it could be 2 years. That's how long it'll take. Now, let's contrast that with, for example, Romanian. If I compare Romanian to Korean, I've spent far more time on Korean than Romanian, not even close. But Romanian was extremely easy because 70% of the vocabulary is similar to Italian. And the structure is somewhat similar. So that I don't have to get my brain used to things that I'm not, that the brain is not used to, like cases in Russian or verbs of motion or in any of the Slavic languages. So that was in fact very easy. After a month, I think 2 months of studying on my own, I went to Romania. I was able to speak to Romanians, talk to people in bookstores, I can understand a fair amount of political podcasts. I'm nowhere near that level in Korean. Koreans tell me I speak well, but I know myself that if I listen to any serious material in Korean, I lose the thread very quickly because I simply don't have the words. Whereas in Romanian, I had the words. Portuguese and Spanish, in fact, I had more trouble going from Spanish to Portuguese. And the reason was that I went at it the wrong way. We didn't have Portuguese at Link. I bought Living Language. I was trying to learn individual phrases. I bought a book on how, differences between Spanish and Portuguese. I read the book. It doesn't do it. You have to basically let yourself, be exposed to a lot of content, listening and reading. Gradually, the brain starts to get used to it. Then you start speaking. So I would say the Portuguese took me, if I was to be at the level where I was in Romanian after 2 months, I think it took me 6 months in Portuguese. So just a brief description. So how long does it take? Well, it depends on how similar the language is to a language we already know. It also depends on how you go at it. If you can afford a teacher one-on-one, even 1 hour a day, and especially if it's 3 hours a day, you're going to move along a lot more quickly. Being in a classroom with 15 other people, I don't consider that to be intensive. So it depends on that, how similar they are, and of course what you want to achieve. If I always strive to achieve some level of comfortable fluency, ability to talk about, a variety of things. If you only want to be able to say a few pleasantries, of course that can be achieved fairly quickly. So I kind of rambled on a bit. I don't know if I covered all the points, but how long does it take? A long time. So you better enjoy it. And the more time you put in every day, the fewer number of months it will take. And you need to decide just what it is you want to achieve. In my case, I want to be able to read. I want to be able to read newspapers, listen to radio, watch movies. So it takes a long time. I think I'm in my Arabic adventure for a good 2 years, but I might just mix in a bit of Farsi and Turkish just to whet my appetite for my next adventure. So there you have it. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.